I told you that in Kasangati and Magere we have maintained a security cover there, including the home of Honorable Chagulanyi. And we are having a controlled arrangement at that place. Individual actors and political groups, including NUP, that had plans of instigating riots, and that is on record. You know this, you don't behave as if you're a journalist who has not been covering some of these issues and listening to the threats that have been coming from that side of NUP and other areas. So our intelligence availed this information to the task teams, and we are going to continue maintaining a presence during this aftermath, because they want to use the heat of this aftermath when the elections, when the declarations are still hot, so that they can instigate protests, but we are not going to allow for that. Ake wanted to force his entry into the home of Honorable Chagulanyi, all right? And then, of course, you know how violent he usually portrays himself when he's blocked by security. Now, if he's taken to hospital, that is arrangement between him and the hospital and Dr. Sechitoleko of Rubaga. They know what arrangement is there, okay? So we are not going to go into issues of claiming that Zake was beaten. He was obstructed from entering the home of Honorable Chagulanyi. For our joint intelligence components that had captured information of defiant and disruptive plans dubbed Plan B by selected candidates and political parties to not only reject the outcome of the elections, but also instigate their supporters into holding mass riots. Now, already they are spreading falsehoods and negative propaganda over the electoral results using the traditional media of radio. They are going on TV and using newspapers to spread these falsehoods. Something that we do condemn. And there were also plans of building up mass riots through mass mobilizations of district coordinators across the country, especially under the NUP network and structures. And we want to come out as the joint security agencies and caution those who have such sinister plans of promoting violence in the country to stop it forthwith. We have been able to counter most of the plans where there are attempts of provoking security forces into violent confrontations with the aim of discrediting government. We've asked our officers to observe as much restraint as possible so that they don't fall into that trap. Then we have also, as a way of countering plans to start riots simultaneously in major cities and towns. These plans were supposed to be activated on the 15th of this month, but we've been able to counter those riots that were planned simultaneously in these major towns and cities. You could have monitored how we have dominated all public places, especially places of worship, schools, health facilities, fuel stations, and markets, where the perpetrators of violence had planned to stage their demonstrations. So that in the process of our forces and crowd dispersal teams coming out to probably disperse the violent demonstrations and riots, there would be, of course, incidents or negative reactions from the public while we use tear gas and other non-lethal methods of dispersal. We are also continuing to monitor designated routes in and out of Kampala, and on each of these designated routes, some of these reactionary groups had identified coordinators along Bombo Road, with flashpoints at Kagoma, Matuga, and Wobulenzi. We have been able to dominate all those areas. Then also another route, is designated route that had been identified is the Gayaza route, with the flashpoints at Mperere, Kutano, Kasangati, and Gayaza. We've also dominated that section. On Hoima Road, flashpoints had been identified at Mastowa, Wakiso, and Kachiri. We've dominated that area. And Mitiana Road had flashpoints at Busega, Kumunana, and Rujuko. Then on Jinja Road, flashpoints were identified at Chireka, Boyogerere, Seta, and Mukono. These flashpoints were basically earmarked to cut off areas with at least 5 key actors to protest and the elections, and then instigate riots and so on. So we do want to, again, to come out and caution some of the youth and other perpetrators who had been recruited into these acts of violence to reject such calls of violence and remain law-abiding. This is our country. It is peaceful, and we should ensure that it remains peaceful. And especially, we want to caution some of those rioters that had been recruited, especially from Kasese, Jinja, Mitiana, Luwera, and Mbale. These ones had been mobilized to descend on to Kampala as a city and the epicenter of their planned riots. Just like we assured Ugandans and visitors to Uganda about a very peaceful election, we also want to assure them of a peaceful aftermath of the elections, where all acts of impunity and lawlessness shall not be tolerated. In our operational plan, we had basically mapped out all hotspot areas within the Kampala metropolitan area and other areas countrywide. And if you could have witnessed, our task teams are still having ongoing operations targeting criminal gangs and reactionary groups with plans to cause mayhem in Kampala and other areas. Just like the PRO Minister of Internal Affairs indicated, the Joint Task Force has also enhanced border security to curtail any possible infiltrations of terror cells and other forces linked to civil order into the country. And going forward, we would like to urge all Ugandans and visitors to the country to start going about their businesses and daily activities normally, without fear. We as the joint security agencies are going to continue to attend to all forms of political violence and apply the law against anyone who may come promoting conflict within the prevailing laws. Also, during this aftermath, we want to inform and reassure all Ugandans that COVID-19 is real and it still exists. We urge members of the public, even as you go out there, continue being very vigilant and cautious. Observe the SOPs from the Minister of Health.
Generally, I am here to report to you that we had a very peaceful and quiet time during and immediately after elections. We have not had any incident, and we want to thank everybody who contributed to that. Before I proceed, I want to thank my colleagues, the media, for the relentless effort you put in to ensure that Ugandans decide what they want. And the time to go back to do our normal business, because the elections was a competition and it ended. There are other elections that are coming in. Those ones also need to be covered. But the bottom line is that Uganda is here, we are here. Let's go back to our normal business. It is my humble responsibility that whenever I'm talking to you, I tell you about COVID. And right now, the status quo of COVID in prisons is that we have had 1,007 cases of COVID. Out of those, 889 have recovered. Active are 118, and unfortunately, we have lost one person to COVID. for the entire period when it started. But so far, we are managing within. At least all the magisterial courts are expected to be running normally. And we hope when the internet is restored, the Zooming programs will also begin like we have been doing. Well, I am here to dispel the malicious propaganda which I had between Saturday and Sunday on some radios. Some people, without any information, they just go to spread rumors without even a foundation. And some of those rumors are that you see police and prisons are conniving, police makes a swoop of people and dumps them in the prison. They don't go to court. And that is a very wrong brief to the public. If somebody is not informed, let him not go to misinform the public, because everybody knows the procedure of how one goes from the community to the prison. But for purposes of emphasis, I have to repeat this procedure. That one, a person or a suspect is arrested either by police, the army, or even wananchi themselves. And when this person is arrested, the moment the police gets to you, then they prepare a file and it is taken to the DPP for perusal and sanction. Now, when a person has when DPP sees that there is no case against the accused or the alleged offender, recommends this person to be released, and the person is released. For those where they think there is a case, then the file is sanctioned, and the person, together with the file, are taken to court. Now, court makes a decision. If a person maybe confesses, it convicts and sends you for serving a sentence in prison. If not, they send you to prison on a remand, pending your trial. And that's the procedure, and that's the standard procedure. You can't check it. So you cannot have a person in prison who has not passed through court. Yes, when we talk of court, we go back to our constitution. Which type of courts are we talking about? They are civil courts, they are military courts, they are commercial courts. So as long as it is a competent court that has sent you to prison, we receive you, and every prisoner in prison has a warrant, reading his case, determining when this person is supposed to be in prison. So it becomes very surprising that somebody says, no, the prisons are full of people who have not appeared anywhere. They are picked and then dumped in a prison. But like some people say, it is true that if you allege, please verify. We are ready to account for every person that we have in prisons. And inciting the public